Imagine building your whole life with the one you loved, dreams, promises, sleepless nights, sacrifices, only for it all to come crashing down in one split second. They were young, in love. Francisca and Ababio had it all until fate changed everything. A devastating car accident, screams, blood, shattered glass, and then silence. She woke up to a nightmare pain confusion, and a doctor's voice that shattered her spirit. "We have to amputate the leg." He was there at first, whispering false promises, holding her hand with a trembling smile, but soon his warmth turned cold, his words sharp, cruel. "I deserve to be happy too." Alone, broken, discarded, she spiraled. Depression nearly claimed her, something within refused to die. This is not just a story of heartbreak, it is a story of survival, of rising, of becoming. Wait till you see how Francisca transformed from a forgotten woman in a wheelchair to a national icon who stood tall while the man who left her fell. Stay tuned because you won't believe what happens next. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss the next chapter of this powerful real-life story. I remember the first time I met Ababio like it was yesterday. The smell of akara from Mama Chinidu's roadside stand, the buzz of okadas weaving between Danfus, and his silly grin that stretched too wide for one person's face. I was just 19, then naive, hopeful, with dreams bigger than the sky. He was 21, tall, dark, with eyes that looked like they held secrets and stories from another lifetime. I swear. "Nah, you go be the mother of my children," he told me one evening under the mango tree by the junction, and I actually blushed like one small girl. We didn't have much. He was still learning plumbing under one Baba mechanic, and I was hustling my way through tailoring school, threading needles by lantern light after hawking pure water during the day. But love, sweet dye. We didn't just date, we built dreams. We talked about opening a big fashion and furniture joint together, Bance's Creations. We named it silly, right? But in that time, it felt like magic. He gave me his last 1,000 once when my sewing machine broke down and I used to wake at 4 a.m. to make his lunch for site work. Nah, sacrifice, we always told each other. One day we go chop life together. I kept every love note, every scribbled promise on brown paper. He once surprised me with second-hand heels he bought from Oshadi Market just because I mentioned I liked red. They were one size too big, but I wore them like gold. People used to envy us. Love-way day inside pot of struggle go last pass. The one-way day under air condition, Mama and Josie once said. I believed her. But life, oh life, it has a wicked sense of humor. One minute you're wrapped in warm arms under a leaky zinc roof, dreaming of a better tomorrow, and the next, you're lying in cold silence, wondering how everything shattered in the blink of an eye. If someone had told me that the same Ababio, the one who carried me on his back when I had malaria, the one who kissed my forehead and whispered, "You're my world," would be the same person to walk away from me when I needed him the most. No. Let me not jump ahead. This story, my story, is not just about betrayal. It's about pain, yes, but also about strength. About finding the pieces of yourself after the world has scattered them like torn fabric in the wind. So, let me start from the beginning, from the days when love was pure, before fate introduced a crooked bend in our journey, before the accident that changed everything. My name is Francisca Okoji, and what I'm about to tell you, it's not fiction. It's the thread of my life stitched with blood, heartbreak, and eventually something like peace. And it all began under that mango tree. If I close my eyes, I can still hear the screech of tires. That day started like any other. I had just finished measuring fabric for a customer's osawabi when Ababio called. "Baby, make we just go chill small," he said, excitement dancing in his voice. He'd finally gotten a plumbing contract with one big company in Lekki. We were both hyped. "Let's go celebrate," he said. I didn't know that celebration would become my nightmare. We borrowed his cousin's car, a rickety old Toyota Corolla with one stubborn side mirror. I didn't mind. I was wearing my best Ankara gown, hair packed in 2 neat braids, and I had even lined my eyes with that black pencil I only used for special days. He held my hand the whole way, music blasting, laughter filling the car. "Baby. Nah, this kind life I daydream of," he said as we drove across 3rd Mainland Bridge. "This is just the beginning." But then a loud horn, bright lights, skid marks. One moment we were flying with hope. The next we were spinning in chaos. The impact threw me against the dashboard. My scream died in my throat. The smell of burning rubber filled the air. Glass shattered everywhere. I tasted blood. When I woke up, I was in the hospital, surrounded by white curtains and pain. "Where is Ababio?" was the first thing I asked. He was there. His arm was in a sling, a small cut above his eyebrow. He came to my side, held my hand. "Baby, you're alive. Thank God," he cried. But it didn't take long before the gratitude in his eyes turned to something else. Something I couldn't explain at first: discomfort. Pity. Then the doctor came in with a face carved in sorrow. "Miss Okoji, the bones in your right leg were shattered badly. We tried our best, but we may need to amputate to save your life." Amputate. I thought it was a cruel joke. I laughed, then cried, then screamed. "No, you people want to ruin my life. I'm a fashion designer, not a cripple." Ababio sat still, too still, his face drained of all emotion. I looked at him, hoping for reassurance, for him to say something, anything. But all he said was, "Let's just wait and see, baby." The wait didn't help. The infection worsened. They took my leg 3 days later. After that, everything changed. The way people looked at me, the way the nurses whispered. But what hurt the most was Ababio. At first he brought me food, stayed overnight, held my hand during the pain. But soon he started coming late. Then, not at all. "Work is plenty," he'd say over the phone. "I'll come tomorrow." But tomorrow kept turning into never. I started to sense it, the shift. The way he avoided my eyes, how his voice lacked warmth. One day I asked, "Ababio, are you still here? Or are you just waiting to escape?" He didn't answer. He just looked at the door like he wished he was already on the other side. That was the first time I felt the crack, not just in my body, but in my soul. The accident didn't just take my leg. It started the slow erasure of everything I believed. There are some kinds of pain that even morphine cannot touch. Waking up every morning in that white-painted room felt like punishment. My hospital bed smelled of disinfectant and despair. The bandage on my leg changed daily, but the emptiness it covered never stopped bleeding inside me. I didn't cry the first time I saw the stump, no. I laughed. A cold, mad kind of laugh. I thought maybe if I laughed hard enough, I'd wake up from the nightmare, but the nightmare was real. They tried to encourage me. Those cheerful physiotherapists with fake smiles. "You're doing great, Francisca. One day at a time. One day." Every hour felt like a decade. I had to learn how to sit without falling over, how to balance on one leg, how to breathe through pain that screamed louder than my voice ever could. And the mirror, I avoided it like a curse. I didn't want to see the girl who used to twirl in her own handmade dresses. She was gone. In her place stood a stranger with dull skin, cracked lips, and hollow eyes. Worse than the physical pain was the silence. The kind that stretches long and wide, filling spaces where people used to be. My friends stopped coming after the second week. First, they sent texts. Then, even that stopped. I was no longer the fun, fashionable Francisca I had become. Inconvenient even. The nurses stopped smiling at me. I overheard one whispering to another, "Nah, small girl way. No, even Mary. See as life dan wound am." Their words stayed in my chest like knives, and Ababio, he drifted like smoke. First it was, "I'll bring your favorite jollof tomorrow." Tomorrow didn't come. Then it was, "I'm working night shifts now, baby." One night turned into 7. I stopped asking, stopped hoping. But it was one conversation with the doctor that shattered what little strength I had left. "We found a charity that can assist with a prosthetic," he said gently, like I was made of glass. "But it will take time. You'll have to learn everything again." I stared at him and whispered, "What's the point?" He looked at me with pity. That awful, suffocating pity that night. Alone in the hospital room, I pressed my hand against the spot where my leg used to be and cried like a child. I thought about ending it, about pulling out the 4 and letting myself disappear. No one would notice, not even him. I wanted anyone to fight for me, but the world had moved on. I had no leg, no man, no dignity. All I had was the ceiling, above my bed, and the ache in my chest, and yet somewhere deep inside me, something whispered, "This is not how your story ends," but that voice was faint, almost drowned by the darkness. I didn't know heartbreak could feel worse than physical pain until the day Ababio walked away. It started with small things, missed calls, dry replies, forgotten promises. Then came the distance-long silences, forced smiles, uncomfortable visits. His touch became mechanical, his words rehearsed. One afternoon, I asked Ababio, "Are we still in this together?" He blinked. "You're recovering. That's what matters now." "But what about us?" I whispered. He stood there, hands in his pockets, eyes avoiding mine. "I didn't sign up for this, Francisca." I felt my soul crack. "You didn't sign up?" I asked, my voice trembling. "What exactly did you sign up for?" "The glam, the dreams, the spotlight. So now that life has bruised me, I'm disposable." He sighed like he was the victim. "Don't twist it, I'm just being honest." That night, I stayed awake, staring at the empty chair where he used to sit. My chest felt hollow, my breath shallow. I kept replaying our years together, how we shared puff-puff on the roadside, how he'd whisper no matter what happens. Nah, me and you, forever. Lies. Sweet, poisonous lies. A week later, he showed up again. Flowers in hand, cologne heavy, fake smile plastered on his face. I got you something, he said. I didn't smile. Why are you here, Ababio? He sat on the edge of the bed, like it was made of nails. I think we both know. This isn't working. I stared at him, silent. Waiting. You've changed, Francisca, he said. You're always angry, always crying. You don't even look like yourself anymore. The words slapped harder than any hand ever could. I lost my leg, Ababio, my body, my dreams, my sense of self. And you say I've changed, like it's a crime? He shrugged. I deserve to be happy too. This is too much. I can't carry this kind of burden forever. Burden, I repeated. The word echoed in my chest. So I'm a burden now. He stood, coward. I hope you find peace. I really do. And just like that, he left. No goodbye kiss, no final hug. Just silence and a bouquet of cheap roses that smelled like betrayal. I watched him walk out the hospital doors and knew he wasn't coming back. For days, I didn't eat. I couldn't. I stared at the walls, numb. Nurses came and went, their voices distant. I was alive, yes, but I felt erased. Friends stopped asking about him. One even said, at least he didn't leave immediately. Some men would have vanished. After the accident that was supposed to comfort me, I began to question everything. My worth, my beauty, my entire existence. How could someone love you so deeply and then treat you like expired milk? The man who once promised me forever couldn't even handle my darkest hour. But in that suffocating grief, I also learned something when someone leaves you in your worst moment. They never truly loved you in the first place. They say grief comes in stages: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance. But mine didn't follow rules. It came all at once. Like a storm that refused to pass, I stopped opening the curtains in my hospital room. Sunlight irritated me. Laughter from other rooms made my skin crawl. Even the nurses started treading lightly around me, like I might break into pieces if they looked at me too long. Sometimes I wanted to scream. Other times I wanted to disappear. I stopped brushing my hair, stopped bathing. I didn't even want to eat. One nurse, Nurse Tidai, tried to coax me with warm pepper soup. I pushed it away. Francisca, she said softly, you haven't eaten all day. I'm not hungry, I murmured, staring at nothing. You'll get sick, she warned. I chuckled bitterly. Good, maybe if I die, I won't be anybody's burden again. She froze. I saw her eyes water before she turned and walked out. Quickly, that night I looked at myself in the mirror for the first time in weeks. What I saw wasn't a woman, it was a shadow. Pale skin, thin lips, sunken cheeks. One leg, my hand reached for the pill tray. My heart was pounding, chest heavy. I just wanted the pain to end. And then I heard it. A voice from the corridor. You day always wear fine dress, auntie. I sabby draw too. I blinked. Slowly turned toward the door. A little girl stood there, maybe 9 or 10. She had cornrows and a big smile. One hand held a sketch pad. The other dashed crutches. She limped into my room before the nurse could stop. Her? I be amputee too, she announced proudly. Them say I know, go walk again, but I day walka, small, you strong, auntie. You go walka, pass me. My lips parted, but no sound came. I draw you, she added, holding up a crude but sweet drawing me in a big, beautiful gown, standing tall with a sparkling artificial leg. Why would you draw me like this? I whispered. Because that's how you go, be, she shrugged. Fine, strong, famous designer way go. So my wedding dress, that broke me. My knees buckled, and I cried for the first time, not from pain or betrayal, but from something deeper. Hope. This child, this stranger believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. Nurse Titi later told me the girl's name was Njosi, a cancer survivor who had lost her leg to the disease. She was being discharged the next day. I asked her to leave the drawing. She smiled and placed it gently beside me. Auntie Francisca, you know, be broken, you be warrior. That night I stared at the drawing until dawn, and for the first time in months I chose life. I called the nurse in the morning. Help me get up, I said. I want to bathe, I want to eat, I want to live. It wasn't much, but it was a beginning, a flicker of fire inside a woman they thought had been extinguished. Starting again was like learning to breathe. Underwater, I left the hospital with a plastic bag of old clothes, a new prosthetic leg that pinched like sin, and a heart full of quiet fire. I had no money, no clients, and no assurance of anything, but I had the drawing. Njosi gave me, and I clung to it like it was scripture. The first time I walked into the local market, heads turned. Not in admiration, no. Pity, curiosity, whispers followed me like shadows. Nah, that girl way accident nearly kill. Fine girl, Dan turn like this. I pretended not to hear, but my chest burned. I set up a small space at the back of my aunt's compound, a wooden table, a secondhand sewing machine, and a handwritten sign. Francisca designs custom sewing and repairs. On my first day, I got 0 customers. Second day, still nothing. By the 5th day, I was questioning everything. Maybe I had made a mistake. Maybe Ababio was right. Maybe people like me, women with scars, limps, and shattered dreams, were meant to fade into the background. Then came Mama Eno. She was short, round, loud, and walked like the ground owed her money. "You nah the designer?" she asked, squinting. Double quotes. "Yes, Ma," I replied nervously. "I sew and repair clothes." She pulled a wrapper from her nylon bag. "If you spoil this cloth I go use slap you." "Nah, my burial wrapper for my uncle." I almost laughed. That was her way of showing trust. I did my best, clean stitches, tight seams, perfect pleats. When she returned the next day, her eyes lit up. Double quotes. "Ah, this one fine, well," she exclaimed. "You sabi this work." She paid and left, shouting my name through the street like a town crier. By the end of the week, I had 5 new customers, but it wasn't easy. Some people refused to pay full price. Some asked why I was charging normal price with only one leg. One woman returned a dress I made and said, "I just feel like your energy isn't complete." Her words stung for days. One night, after working till midnight with swollen hands, I opened my phone to check social media. A fashion blogger had posted a viral video mocking crippled tailors who want to trend. I stared at the video. My eyes burned. But instead of breaking down, I took a deep breath and typed my truth into a post: my accident, my struggle, my new journey. I ended with, "I may have lost my leg, but I haven't lost my vision." I didn't expect anything. By morning, the post had over 4,000 shares. Strangers commented, "You're a queen. Your strength inspires me. I want to wear your design one day." It wasn't money yet, but it was validation. It was the sound of the world whispering, "Keep going." I turned the small table into a home studio, started sewing at night, watching tutorials, sketching again. I wasn't there yet, but I was on my way, one stitch at a time. There was a time I believed love was the only thing I needed to survive. But when Ababio walked away, I realized that sometimes healing begins when we stop chasing hearts and start finding our own. Still, rebuilding wasn't just about money, or famit was about trust in myself, and slowly, in others. That was when I met Tund. It wasn't romantic. I'll say that from the start. In fact, if anyone had tried to pair us together, I would have walked away. I wasn't looking for love. I had seen what it did to people. I was looking for a reason to believe that not everyone came to take something from me. Tund was one of my first online customers. He had messaged after seeing my viral post, requesting a custom agbada for his uncle's chieftaincy ceremony. "I like how you carry yourself," he wrote. "You're not just sewing, you're telling stories." His words touched something I didn't even know was still tender. When he came to pick up the outfit, I almost didn't recognize him. I had expected someone older, maybe arrogant. But he was simple, gentle in his movements, and polite to a fault. "I can't believe you sewed this by hand," he said. Inspecting the embroidery, "I didn't have the money for an electric machine," I said with a smile. He paused. "If I donate one, will you take it?" I looked up sharply. "I'm not offering pity," he added quickly. "I'm investing in potential. And you, Francisca, are lightning in a bottle." I wanted to refuse. My pride bristled. But my soul whispered, "It's okay to accept help." I nodded slowly. "Only if you let me sew your next 3 outfits for free," he smiled. "Deal." That was how it started. Tund would drop by with zippers, thread, sometimes suja. He never overstepped, never looked at me like I was broken. When customers doubted me, he defended me. When I had long nights, he stayed on the phone to keep me awake. "You're the most brilliant person I've met," he once said. "I'm just trying to survive," I replied. "Exactly," he said. "And you're surviving like a lioness." Sometimes I wondered why he was so kind. One evening I asked, "Don't you have better things to do than babysit a one-legged tailor?" He blinked, then said something I'll never forget. "My sister was in a wheelchair. She died 3 years ago. I watched her fight the world every day. I wasn't always there for her. Maybe helping you is how I make peace with that." For the first time, I didn't feel like a project. I felt seen. We never crossed lines, never tried to define anything, but in the silence between words and the quiet laughter during our work, something sacred grew, a bond built, not on romance, but on respect, on healing, on truth. It was enough. Tund helped me believe that good people still existed, that scars didn't repel everyone, that maybe, just maybe, I could still be whole. The day everything changed didn't start with fireworks. It began with me hunched over a fabric, stitching late into the night as the generator hummed like an old man's groan. Sweat soaked through my blouse. My back ached. My fingers were raw, but the design in my head had to come alive. I could feel it. It was for a young woman named Addis. She wanted something unique for her traditional weddings, something modern, but with cultural fire, she said. I poured myself into the outfit. Every bead was placed with prayer. Every stitch had a piece of my journey. 3 days after her wedding, she tagged me in a post on Instagram. I nearly scrolled past it until I saw the likes. Over 40,000 comments flooding in. Who made this dress? This is what Nigerian fashion should look like. At Francisca Designs is the truth. My hands shook. It was like someone had switched on a light in a dark cave. I refreshed my inbox orders. Over 80 messages. People wanted consultations, brand deals, interviews, influencers tagging me in stories. Someone even said, "You saved my life." I was going to give up on my dream until I read your post. I cried. Not because of the attention, but because for the first time in a long time, I felt seen. Not as the girl who lost her leg, but as the woman who never gave up. Tund was the first to call. "Francisca, your name is on everybody's lips. I told you, you're lightning." The weeks that followed were a blur. I appeared on local TV shows. One magazine called me the Phoenix of Nigerian fashion. Another said I was a walking definition of resilience. One day I was invited to showcase my designs at the Lagos Rising Designers Gala. My first real fashion show. I couldn't afford models, so I used friends, students, even Mama Ino's daughter. We practiced in my compound with plastic chairs. For an audience, on the night of the event, I stood backstage in a borrowed gown, watching my designs float down the runway like dreams in motion when the lights hit them. The crowd gasped. They didn't know my story. Not all of them, but they could feel the soul in the fabric. The pain, the glory, the fire. When the final model walked out wearing my signature dress, a blend of ASO oak and velvet with a modern slit and glass bead neckline, the applause was thunderous. I limped onto the stage. The spotlight was warm on my skin. The crowd rose. A standing ovation. Me, Francisca, the girl they once whispered about in pity, was now a woman. The world celebrated. I bowed. And in that moment, I knew. I wasn't just sewing clothes anymore. I was stitching broken pieces of my soul into art. I was telling every woman who ever doubted her worth, you can rise too. And I was just getting started. I used to wonder if Ababio ever thought about me, if he lay awake at night haunted by what he did. But success has a way of quieting old wounds until one day, like a slap from fate, the past knocks loud enough to demand attention. It was on a Thursday, 2 months after the Lagos Gala, when I saw the headline. Oil executive Ababio Mensah caught in cheating scandal, fiancé walks out live on air. At first I laughed. It wasn't joy. Just that bitter, dry laugh you let out when the same man who called you a burden is now being dragged by the same public he used to impress. The full story came out quickly. Turns out, his new love Vanessa had been playing him all along. While he flaunted her like a trophy, she was entangled with someone else. Someone richer. The internet roasted him like fresh soup. Yaoga left his woman when she needed him. Now karma, Dawnland, God of Francisca, you do this one? I won't lie. My chest warmed, but pity. That didn't come easy. Word had it, he lost his job shortly after. Apparently, the scandal tainted a major merger and the board asked him to resign. In shame, with nothing. They said he now lived alone in a smaller apartment, far from the flashy penthouse he once posted on Instagram. Still, none of it hit me harder than the day I bumped into him. I was at the airport, flying to a Women in Business conference in Ghana. I had just checked in when I heard my name, Francisca. I turned, slowly, and there he was. Ababio, the man who once made me feel like the sun rose from his smile, now looked like a shadow of himself. Sunken cheeks, wrinkled shirt, the spark in his eyes, gone. "Hi," I said, cool as breeze. He took a shaky step forward. "You look amazing." I nodded. "Thanks. You look present," he chuckled weakly. "I deserve that." I adjusted my bag. "I have a flight soon." He nodded, eyes full of unshed guilt. I wanted to say I was wrong about everything. Leaving you, it was the worst decision of my life. Silence. "I thought I was chasing happiness," he continued, "but all I did was run from responsibility, and I paid for it over and over." I studied him, not with hate, but with the clarity only time can give. I once begged God to bring you back, I said quietly. But now I see your absence saved me. He swallowed. I don't hate you, Ababio. I don't even want revenge. You were part of my pain but also part of my awakening. You taught me what not to tolerate. Tears rimmed his eyes. Do you think you could ever forgive me? I smiled, graceful, proud, whole. I already did, I whispered. But forgiveness isn't a door back in, it's the key to walk away free. And with that, I turned and walked toward my gate. High, heels clicking, chin raised, not out of spite, but out of power, the kind only healing can give. If someone had told me years ago that I'd become a household name, gracing magazine covers, giving keynote speeches, and being called a national inspiration, I would have laughed in their face with tears in my eyes. But here I was, standing backstage at one of Nigeria's biggest fashion expos, adjusting the microphone on my gown while makeup artists dabbed gently at my face. The lights outside were blazing. The crowd was roaring. And then, someone whispered, "He's here." I knew who before they even said it. Ababio. Of course, he'd show up on the one night that meant the most. After all, his scandals, his fall from grace, he had finally come. Full circle. The crowd hadn't noticed him yet, but I did. As the host announced my name, Francisca Mensa, the phoenix of fashion, I stepped out walking strong and unbothered. Even with my prosthetic heel clicking the rhythm of my triumph, cameras flashed. Applause thundered. I stood in the center of the stage, soaking in the moment. And as my eyes scanned the room, they met his sitting in the back, small and quiet. The mighty Ababio, who once told me I was too much to carry, now looked like he was shrinking into the folds of his seat. Alone, forgotten, I gave my speech with heart. I spoke about pain, about rebuilding, about women who rise from ashes. The hall went silent with every word. And when I said, "You don't have to be whole to be worthy," I saw tears in more than a few eyes, including his. Afterwards, while guests mingled and reporters begged for sound bites, he waited by the corridor. Like a ghost from a past I'd buried. "Francisca," he said softly. When I passed, I turned slowly. He looked tired, older than I remembered. Regret weighed heavily on his shoulders. "That was powerful." He said, "Thank you," I replied, calm and graceful. He stepped closer. "I just wanted to say it again. I'm sorry for everything, for abandoning you, for not being man enough to stay." I looked him dead in the eyes. "And I thank you, because if you hadn't left, I would never have found this version of myself." He nodded slowly, swallowing emotion. "I don't deserve your kindness." "No, you don't," I said gently, "but I offer it anyway. That's the difference between us." Silence. "I miss you sometimes," he whispered. I smiled faintly. "I don't." That stung. I saw it in his eyes, but it was truth, not cruelty. "I wish I had known then what I know now," he said. "Me too," I replied. "But we don't heal by going back. We heal by moving forward." He reached for my hand just slightly, but I pulled back, not harshly, just firmly. "Goodbye, Ababio," I said, stepping past him with grace only the truly healed can carry. I didn't turn back. I didn't need to, because in that moment, I wasn't just a survivor or a designer. I was a woman who chose herself, and that, more than anything, was the real ending. Thank you for watching, but if you did enjoy the story, then don't forget to like, comment, and share with your loved ones. Let's share these moral lessons together. True love requires loyalty, especially in dark times. Francisca and Ababio's story reminds us that love isn't tested during good times, but in seasons of pain, sacrifice, and uncertainty. Abandonment can be more damaging than physical pain. Ababio's betrayal after the accident inflicted deeper wounds than Francisca's injury. Emotional abandonment leaves scars no doctor can heal. You're not defined by what you've lost. Francisca lost her leg, but not her spirit. Her journey shows that even after unimaginable loss, you can still rebuild a life of purpose, power, and pride. Healing begins with self-acceptance. She avoided mirrors, hated her body, and questioned her worth until she chose to see beauty in her scars. Healing began when she stopped rejecting herself. Strength often comes from the lowest points. Francisca's depression could have ended her story, but it became the beginning of a new chapter. Your lowest moment may be your most transformative. Kindness is power. Ivan toward those who hurt you. She forgave Ababio, not to invite him back, but to release herself from bitterness. Forgiveness is not weakness. It is power with dignity. Not all success is measured by public applause. Her real victory wasn't fame or fashion. It was reclaiming her voice, her joy, and herself. Public recognition came after personal triumph. Karma may delay, but it never misses. Ababio's fall from grace teaches that selfishness and betrayal come with consequences. The universe has a long memory. You can rise without revenge. Didn't destroy Ababio. She rose in silence, letting her growth be her response. The best clapback is success with peace. Choosing yourself is the most powerful decision you'll ever make. In the end, Francisca didn't need validation, revenge, or reconciliation. She chose herself and, in doing so, chose freedom.